Legendary Sinclair embossed with ZX, chasing every ghost in jungly steps. Color Clash Parallax loading from cassettes, blistering Nintendo thumb from NES. Monthly fix of cover tapes bought from the store. Commodore format on Zap 64. Roger Frames, budget games and so much more. Flimbo's Quest, Dizzy Egg and Ultimate Ball. These are the memories of a retro gamer. Life was simpler then. These are the memories of a retro gamer. To relive them again.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the RGDS podcast. I'm your host Kingy, and joining me, my usual partner in crime, is Sir Drisk. Hello mate, good to speak to you.
Hello, yes, it's been in some ways it's been a while since we last done an episode together.
Yeah, I think you maybe have to do a little confession here, Paul.
Yeah, I've got to be hauled up over this. So we did record. One of the reasons there was such a long delay before the fantastic recent episode where we got Rich back, so that was wonderful. But we recorded this entire episode that we're about to redo here, and then I discovered something really important, didn't I, Kingy?
You did. Edge is shit. But we needed to use Edge because we discovered, before you go into it, what we discovered is every time we used to record with Paul, I used to moan at him. I was like, why are your fans on your computer going like a Hoover?
Yeah.
Right? And it was a nightmare because we always had to cut that frequency out, and sometimes it bugging about with the sound of the voices. Yeah, I just tried, wait a minute, you're using Chrome, aren't you? He went, yeah, try it on Edge. So against his better judgment, he did go over to Edge, and his fans went, zzz.
I know, it was amazing.
Silent. They weren't, just instant.
But I also
I
also discovered at the end of it that when you choose in Edge, you know when it's like downloading and you say open zip file, unlike Chrome where it happily and sensibly still saves it, it doesn't on Edge. So when I opened up the zip files that had all our lovely recordings and then said, yeah, it's all there, Kingy, right, okay, that's cool. And I even started to upload it up to the Google Drive, but then in a fit of saving the planet, I decided to switch off, so I hadn't got there, and the Minwell died a death, unfortunately. No, sorry, I didn't even switch off. I just closed down the browser. As soon as I closed down the browser, it disappeared. So the Google Drive,
and you did try everything. You went into temporary files.
I was doing really deep things to try and get the files, and
Paul does go deep. Trust me.
So I was bloody frustrated.
To use the one for a good Scottish word, we were both a bit scunnered, weren't we?
Yes, we were a bit scunnered, and but hey ho,
it's happened before, and it was. I mean, there's no blame game, but remember we done that big long Spectrum one. It was 5 hours long, and my gain was too high on the bloody microphone, and then
I remember that one. That was like, oh my god!
But we were very tired doing that. So we were, this one, there's moments, lightning in a bottle moments that we'll never capture again. Let's hope we can, that lightning does strike the same place twice.
Who knows? We'll see.
And you'll never know because you have never heard what we said before, so you're hearing it for the first time now.
And the good news is, because I've got such a bad memory, it's the first time for me as well. I can't remember what we talked about.
Exactly that. So, well, what are we talking about then? Well, Love at First Byte. Basically, we're going to do a good nostalgia-driven episode, specifically about why our first gaming systems that we owned then when you first got your mitts in them, why these systems are held so dear to us, like the most important gaming system of all time. That even though we've got, the next successor or the next computer, or the next console, right through the decades, and we've had great games throughout the years, why is our heart, our love still with that first machine that we got? Yeah. So that's basically what it's about, a good little chat about that. But before we go into that in any depth, Drisky Whiskey, what you been up to, mate, retro-wise?
Yeah, well, I've been having a bad time of it, Kiggy. I did a clean-up over Easter, and in the space of that, just simply unplugging my PC, and because I was like cleaning all the wires and trying to sort it all out a bit, and plugging it back in, 2 of my main hard drives with all my retro games blew up. I mean, we're talking terabytes of data, and I went deep dive into that. But what was even worse is I'd nearly finished the letter C, you know, these big long videos.
Yes.
I'd nearly got to the end of that. I was about to sort of like release it.
Well, I bet you learned a new letter C word when that happened.
Yes. I also learned another letter word beginning with B, which is back up. So I'm trying to back things up. Yeah. So and if that wasn't bad enough, today, as I say, if I seem a little bit flustered today, we had this guy come because apparently all of our circuit boards weren't up to snuff, and the fire alarms had to be replaced, and so there's masonry stuff everywhere. But I went because he was like, "And to make bigger holes in the ceiling and stuff," and so I just cleaned it all up, and I thought, I'll turn the PC on again, which had been off. You know, I turned it off before he was doing. He obviously had to turn all the electric off. Turned it on, and nothing worked. Okay, so I've been spending like an hour. I eventually worked out the CMOS battery needed replacing.
Of all the things, on this day and in this timing. And did you happen to have 2032 batteries, CR2032s just lying there?
I did actually. I had the right battery. So
that's because you need them for your bathroom scales, don't you? And you.
But what was worse than that is that in the stupid design, I had to take off the graphics. I had to take like the graphics board off and
the graphics board. Oh, we call them graphics boards, are we? How's your graphics board? I've got a 1080 graphic board.
I have a really old system. Still on planks of wood. That's
seems like
it. But I think my PC is about to die. I think that's what it's telling me. But I can't afford a new one, so I'm gonna keep it going with sticky back plastic. But if it misbehaves anymore, it's gonna become a Bactera Linux box.
Yeah. Well, at the end of the day, if you've got problems there, I've got some spare graphics boards and mother circuits, since we're talking weird language here. And we can always build you a computer, Drisky, from spare parts if need be.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, at the moment, I managed to, yes, it's on sticky back plastic. But in happier news, I finally took the plunge. I bought a Switch 2.
You did you? Cool.
Yeah. And I must admit, I'm glad I did it. I've been really enjoying, you know, like how I was a bit wary with the new Mario Kart because they kept on talking about the open world, and I was like, I don't like that. But when you actually get to it, it's really well designed because it's just Mario Kart, but there's a totally separate mode where you can do the open world. So it's just your basic Mario Kart as it always is, but you can do the open world, which is perfect for Mira and me because you can't die. So, but you know, she can do stunts and things. So Mira loves that mode. So she's been like jumping up tails of dinosaurs and and what have you, and you know, just you can go from end to end, and of course on all the tracks that you would encounter as well. But it's just really good, and the screen has impressed me as well. It's a lot better than my. I haven't got the OLED Switch. I've got the one before, the standard LCD, and this screen is bigger and much better. So yes, I'm pleased with that. So yeah, very very happy. I started playing Mario Wonder again, which is nice because I'd only played like a few worlds into that, and then
rinsed that completely on.
Well, I know you completed it. Yeah, no, I love it. Although it's good, you know, it's a full blown trip that he's going on, isn't it?
Oh, what handsome!
I was thinking,
he's taking the wrong mushrooms this time.
Yeah, exactly. He's having some bad trips here, I'll tell you. Yeah. To the point where I was thinking, should Mira play this? I don't know. Is it endorsing drug use? I don't know.
It doesn't come with any, warnings. Remember, kids, don't take drugs.
Yeah, because at the moment it's telling me drugs are good.
Well, which
Ebony's are good. Yeah.
As a segue for me then, I went to see, and this I suppose has been on the go for many years, so you can call them retro if you want, but I went to see The Prodigy in Glasgow.
Oh, yes.
and oh my God, it was like all of Glasgow were out their tits on drugs that night in that place. It's like the drug dealers must have gone ka-ching, 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 because honestly, they were just getting on my fucking nerves, to be frank. I mean, I've never been a person to dabble in drugs or whatever, not my thing, not my scene, but you just know people that are out there facing them, and they just were all in our section up in the balcony area. It was like, oh, goodness sake, up and down. They were in and out the area like a Jack Russell's willy for starters, right? Honestly, it's like, and then off to the bar, back again, dancing on the stairwells rather than on their seat. The ushers goes, you can't do that there. They get herded back, then they're out again, glow sticks, dancing on the stairs. And there was like, even a guy when I went for a piss, dancing freehand at the urinals while having a pee. It was just like, oh my God, look, Mum, no hands, you know. So it's like, oh, dearie me. Gig was good, don't get me wrong, but
because didn't was it Liam that died?
Yeah,
the main singer died, didn't he? So
yeah,
who's the replacement?
Well, you've always had Maxime there as well. Anyway, he was always in the band as well. There was always two of them because Liam started off. No, Liam. You said Liam, didn't you?
Yeah.
Liam's the keyboardist.
I don't know which one it was. Oh, right.
Keith Flint.
Keith Flint. That's right. Yeah.
So he took his own life a few years back there, sadly. No, Maxime was always in the band, whereas Keith was the dancer to start off with in the band originally. And then when Firestarter then came, that was when the iconic, you know, his hair and all the rest and such like.
Yeah.
But no, Maxime, if you ever watched last year's Glastonbury, they were playing, you got two stages, they were playing on the second stage at the same time as the main headliners on some, you know, modern day pop star, whoever it is, Rodriguez or whoever it was, I can't even remember. They completely annihilated. I think more people came to see them and they just owned the Glastonbury field.
Oh, wow.
And it was the wife, I was watching it with the wife, and I'd been wanting to see them for years because all my mates go every time they play, say they're fantastic, got to go and see them, blah blah blah. And on the strength of that show there, she just went on to Ticketmaster and bought tickets for the Hydro in Glasgow, and it was good, it was really good.
So, good, I'm glad you enjoyed. That's
yeah. Got one retro thing to tell you about, you may be interested in. It's a kind of utility, not really a game, but you can get it on itch.io or Steam. It's called Box Room. Have you heard of this? Well, you did the last time we recorded, but let's not.
But we've already established I can't remember. I'm like the goldfish, isn't it? Glub, glub, glub.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Oh, dear. So, Box Room, for the second time, Paul, is this wonderful thing that if you are a person, many retro people are like this, that are not really into the digital world, but we're forced down that avenue pretty much in everything we own now, right? So where are we? Oh, he remembers now. Well done.
I remember now, yeah. I'm slow, but I get that. Yeah, carry on. Yeah.
So obviously your Steam collection, and everybody has massive Steam collections of shame. This integrates with it, but you've got to allow it public access. So that means that anybody else viewing your profile will see your list of games. That's off by default. So if you're paranoid about that people know you have all these weird hentai games, you know, maybe best not making it public. But so this game, utility, whatever you want to call it, reads it all. And then you start with a bedroom, okay? A little first-person perspective. And it kind of works like Minecraft. You can smash the walls to make it to go to infinity to create the size. And it's like moving in day. So all your Steam games are in boxes. And you pull them out and you can put them all in rows and rows on shelves. You can then pull them out and all the artwork has been grabbed as well from, well, some voodoo place, I don't know. Okay? Yeah. So you've got the front cover, or a lot of games don't have front covers, so it takes the art from somewhere and you can open the case and any other instructions around in pamphlets, because you've got all these other subsections within Steam. All of that is there, so there's a tactile element to the, you know, the digital library that you have. And then you have a desk and a computer and you can put the disc in, the CD in, and then the game launches in full screen. So it's an equivalent to Big Picture mode, but an interactive version of it if you want. Really smart. You can decorate posters in your room. You can change the duvet sets. I think the demo on Steam, someone's got a Worms duvet. I want a Worms duvet set. That would be cool. I'd be worried. The only one I've got a really retro duvet set from the Amiga. Did you know that?
What is
Skid marks. You saw it coming, but anyway.
I was waiting
So it's free at the moment because it's still in an alpha stage, so the demo's there to download. So I don't know, but yeah, it's a good muck, and I know you'd like that kind of thing to make this wonderful Steam library type thing.
Although it might show your addiction in full flow, mightn't it?
Well, that's the trouble, is because my ridiculous collection of, around about 2,000 games or something, insane, not quite that yet, but getting up there, that it'll be like the ending of Raiders of the Lost Ark when they go into the warehouse with the Ark of the Covenant, and it just goes on to almost infinity. I mean, I'm at, Alex the Antelope or something, right, for my first game, but I want to play bloody Zimbabwe Zanzibar. I've got an hour-long walk to run down the corridor just to get that flipping game.
Maybe it could do like one of those sort of like golf carts or something, or like motorbikes you could drive there. But is it just Steam that it does? It doesn't do like GOG and stuff? Because I'd love to see my GOG library.
Yeah, just what I've not delved in too deep at the moment, because obviously you can get an itch.io, right? So I don't know in terms of integrations and what's allowed. Certainly it's advertised for Steam at the moment, but wouldn't that be good with GOG or any digital?
Well, yeah. I mean, when I think of all the Epic games I picked up over the years, the free ones.
Your free Epic games are starting to, overtake your Steam wall of shame.
I'd have a separate room with dust lining the shelves. Yeah. Never opened. Yeah.
Yeah, they've got imagine that if it knew you've never launched it ever because it says 0 minutes played, you actually have to take the cellophane wrapper off the bloody thing or break the seal.
All of my games pretty much would have that. I tell you. I've tried to stop myself buying PC games because I don't know, particularly with my PC playing up at the moment. I'm sticking to consoles. Clearly, I need to be. I haven't got the smarts for a PC. So, maybe the Switch is more my speed.
Yeah, but it'll be interesting for you in terms of when the Steam console comes out, what that would retail at.
Or they pretty much alluded now officially that the new Xbox is also going to have Epic day one and Steam, although they didn't say day one on Steam, but that would be cool.
Very interesting, then. Just the world's changing, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Although who knows with Xbox, because they are completely rebranding. They're going back to exclusives and stuff like that. So
yeah, well, I'm all for that, because if you don't have that, we've said that in episodes before. If there's much a muchness between consoles, and what does it matter? You're just you're really just paying for the service and how you like it delivered, but you still get pretty much the same game. So not the days of Commodore and Spectrum.
Yeah, well, it's sort of the sad, isn't it? Because like PlayStation dropped the ball recently. When they got rid of Shay Yoshida and put Jack Ryan in, and suddenly they went all live service games, which most got cancelled.
Mm-hmm.
So PlayStation really hasn't done its usual output of brilliant first-party software, and Xbox also dropped the ball with just not releasing as much as they normally would. And
games are taking too long. These AAA games that they think people want are just taking far too long to develop.
I know, and I was thinking that with like when I picked up the Switch 2, because I was like, right, okay, don't get me wrong, I'm happy, but mostly because it's got got the GameCube collection and stuff like that, and I love my games on the Switch 1. But I was like, right, okay, what Switch 2 games am I going to like treat myself to?
Mm-hmm.
And it was like there isn't at the moment. There's none, but they have alluded to they are, which is one of the reasons I took the plunge with it, was they've alluded to they're doing a remaster of Ocarina of Time, which is like my absolute favorite. And the other thing that they've also said is they're coming out with a new Star Fox game, which explains why he appears in so much in the new Galaxy movie.
Yeah,
which was good fun actually. I enjoyed that. Don't believe the naysayers. It's a fun movie.
Oh.
The new Galaxy movie.
To be honest, I've even only ever saw the first movie when it was briefly on TV. I am CGI'd out only because I was a parent and I went to the cinema regularly, for Kung Fu Panda and Ratatouille and everything else in between. and I just can't stomach CGI cartoons anymore. I've just, no.
You're more of a Bob Hoskins Mario, are you?
Yeah, not far from the truth there, mate. Not
Dennis
far from
Hopper.
the truth.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Right, shall we go on
Yes.
to the main episode then? So, love at first
Yeah.
bite. Nobody really ever gets over the first computer, folks. No, not really. I mean, you might have moved on, you might have upgraded, even grown up. I mean, games are no longer mine. There's somewhere in the back of your mind, and it always sits there. That machine lurks there, and nothing since has ever quite done what it did to you. Now, that sounds worded wrong.
Yeah.
That. But that's not. This is not a U tree.
Poor Almac. He's still no amount of psychiatry has ever been able to sort his poor choices over the years.
His poor choices back in the early days, yeah, absolutely. Oh, bless. We're picking him and he can't even defend himself. So the impact, the first machine, whether it be a console, whether it be a microcomputer, 8-bit or 16-bit computer, whatever it was so special for you. So in this particular episode, we're going to talk about why. And I suppose the answer really does turn out to be a lot more interesting than just simple nostalgia. I mean, it's not really about the games, right? The feeling you got as a kid wasn't just the game. It was, I suppose, the whole context. But you had no responsibilities, infinite time, and you had that genuine wonder at technology. It did truly feel like magic, didn't it?
I miss those days.
I know.
I miss those days. I mean, games haven't, new systems used to be so exciting. It used to be pushing, on the vanguard of technology, and it was always a massive leap up. And now it's like, I can't really tell any difference. Slightly cleaner screen.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I suppose there is a whole neuroscience of firsts. That's the reality, right? And nostalgia does have a chemical and biological thing. At that age, when we were young, when we first get it. So what age were you first exposed? And we're on about owning it. I mean, we're exposed to games at early stages, but, what age were you when you got your first system? About?
I was probably about 9.
9.
I think.
So what would I have been? 10, right?
Yeah,
so,
9 or 10,
yeah. So those young brains, so we're moving into from a young child into early adolescence, roughly, right? So brains at that age do release significantly more dopamine in response to novel experiences than any us boring, dull grown-ups do. The first time you saw sprites moving on the screen, your brain really hadn't really processed this. This is the thing. Never seen anything like it. So when you get this computer and you overload on all that stuff, it's just amazing. The modern games are a huge hit. So you can imagine Silent Hill, right, when it came out in the PS1. Brilliant, atmospheric, or Tomb Raider, things like that, right? They're all phenomenal games. But your brain by that point had seen thousands of hours of sophisticated visuals at the time before that. So that virgin reaction you got isn't there anymore, when you get that bit older. So that's the kind of vibe we're going for in this particular episode. Is, it's more than that. I don't want to just all put it down to biochemistry and it goes, that's why you feel like that, folks. Tough shit. You're older now. Get over it. That'll be a very dull episode. So, I mean, go on.
No, you're right. There is just something special when you're at that age. And even though, for me, I obviously have been introduced to gaming from probably the age of 4.
Yeah.
And, the first thing my parents had was the Interton, which was like a cheap knockoff German console, not very good. So that didn't really hit home. But the Spectrum, when my dad brought back the Spectrum, that really did hit home. And you obviously had your Hobbits and amazing things that we've discussed before. But you're right, there was something different when it was at 86, so I would have been 9, was when I got the Spectrum Plus 2 pack. And that was really special. So just for those who didn't sort of grow up with the Spectrum, so you had the 48 Spectrum, which was the rubber keyed one, but by 86, because Sinclair had done things like the C5 and lots of other things and basically had to sell the company because he just stopped focusing so much on the Spectrum, they sold to Amstrad, and Amstrad re-released the Spectrum with a built-in tape deck. It was a beautiful grey, proper keyboard as well, and it was 128K, which was, more memory. It had a AY chip, so it could do better music if it had games that could play it. But it was also completely backwards compatible, so you could sort of like play. And shall I say what my games were, or do you want to talk about your memories before we go too depth?
I suppose we'll do that. We'll just do our memories first, then we'll go on about very particular games. And I mean, I suppose similar thing to yourself. Obviously, it was the Spectrum, but with myself being a bit older, it was the rubber keyboard, the 48K. And price-wise, it just hit the sweet spot because it had been lowered from its higher price down to that $129.99. That's still a lot of money.
Special price, yeah.
Yeah, so this would have been $84. And it was weird in terms of why the Spectrum, because I suppose in one respect though, that why the Spectrum then? Why choose that? Obviously price was the big thing, as I said, but there was other computers, so you had the big competitors. You had not just Amstrad and Commodore, but there was the Dragon 32, there was Oryx, there's so many computers all being advertised, and they were all on display in John Menzies or Boots or Woolworths or you name it, Dixon's. They're all running things on display, and you were like a moth to a light bulb as a kid with these glowy things, because you love games. You knew this by this point. You love gaming, but you had no real power as a kid. You couldn't choose your house, your school, or even the clothes you wore really at that age, did you? Your parents made, or even what you were having for dinner.
Yeah.
But your computer, that was your first choice. Even though your parents bought it, you claimed it. It was one of the only things that you had a genuine stake in and defended it. So I suppose when we get into sort of rivalry and arguing with other kids at other computers what was better, it was exercising your ownership over this. But the earliest, apart from playing Manic Miner at a jumble sale, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, so I'm not going to get into that. Manic Miner existed in other computers, so I wanted Manic Miner. I didn't necessarily, I suppose, wanted the Spectrum, you know what I mean? But it was just a chance conversation with one of my primary school mates. I remember at lunchtime, because we lived round the corner from school, so we went home for lunch and walking back up again, eating some sweets probably. He mentioned just about, I'm thinking about getting a computer for Christmas this year, because you can get one at $129. It's called the Spectrum. And I was like, all right, yeah, I know the Spectrum. And I think then my sister would go on about games that she was around at her friend's house and her brother had the computer and she had played the Jet Set Willy and stuff like that, right? And it was on about that. It just sounded insane, crazy. This is the kind of wacky flavour I want in a game. So that was where the influence came. And I asked for it and got it, luckily enough. So that was a good Christmas after battling with not being a computer noob. Yeah, you were exposed to the BBC Micro, as many kids, length and breadth of the country in every primary school, because that's the chosen weapon of choice for educators in schools at the time. But just to simply learn to press J or J and symbol shift and P twice to get the inverted commas to load, to get the cassette player to go and stuff like that. And of course, I didn't get a cassette player with it. It came with the games. Oh, there's a cassette player in the house. That'll do. It was my sister's one, I think. That was always a battle in the early days then. And she was wanting to listen to,
music,
right, and sing along to it. And but I want to load a bloody game. You get it back once the game loads. And, slowly but surely, it became permanent residence in my bedroom rather than hers. So, so that's kind of where the Spectrum came from. But its impact and influence surely then comes through the games. So back to yourself then, Paul. If you were just show-stopping games that punched you in the face and kicked you in the nuts, what games were them?
Yeah, well obviously, as I say, I'd been exposed to the Spectrum and I'd started buying the games that were very special to me. We had Ant Attack and all of those, and Bear Bother, ones we mentioned before. But I actually found for this episode, so you'll see it on the video version, the actual advert of the very bundle that I got, which was a Dixon bundle. So this was £149.95. That's in 86 or 80. I think 87. So yeah, it would have been 10. Looking at this advert, and right, get this for the collection of games on it. It came with a joystick, but it had the Screen Heroes Ocean bundle, so lots of ocean games. So you had, most of these were pretty bad in retrospect, but some really good. So there was Rambo Part 2, Miami Vice, which we've derided before, but Frankie Goes to Hollywood, which was amazing. Yeah, Highlander, which was such a disappointment. Why they couldn't have done like Barbarian. with a license.
Yeah.
That was such a disappointment. Street Hawk, which again was a disappointment.
Or Shite Hawk, as we called it, yeah.
Street Hawk. Although actually when we did play that on the episode, wasn't it? I think we came away thinking it was a bit better than we remembered.
Yes. Yeah.
And then there was Knight Rider, which was meh. And there was Daley Thompson's Super Test.
Decent.
And then if that wasn't enough, you also had the Konami coin-up collection.
That's better.
Which had Green Beret, Mikey, and the reason I'm pausing a little bit there is because you always deride me and I can never remember which way it is. I grew up calling it IR Kung Fu. I believe it's ER Kung Fu, and I've been corrected.
It's not even E, is it E with a ya? Yeah.
Sorry, it's a hiya! Hiya Kung Fu. Like Miss
We're not being very politically correct here.
It's like Miss Piggy, you know.
I don't know, tandem there.
and then Hyper Sports and Ping Pong. So a lot of Joffa Smith games there. Conversions. And, you know, they're brilliant. I mean, Green Beret.
Green Beret, lovely game.
Mikey, I could never, even to this day, even going to Arcade Club with the arcade original, I've never really understood that game, but I loved it.
Mikey is far more playable, and the difficulty curve is so much more forgiving on the Spectrum version. Highly playable, fantastic game. I can't get out of the classroom in the arcades, but I was able to loop it well on the Spectrum version. It's a great port. Tremendous. I like ones that take the arcade, and there are a few. I mean, I always thought about that as a controversial episode, Paul, about ports that were actually like better at home than the arcade versions themselves.
Yeah, there's lots, isn't there? I mean,
there is. Renegade.
You know, that perfect example, Renegade, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, and there's so many, isn't there? That
list them then. Come on, you're being anecdotal there on the spot.
well, I will say I have probably a softer spot for Shinobi on the Master System. I just prefer being a bit more friendly with it. Yeah. I mean, as much as I love the arcade game, but
just when they weren't still quite capable of being arcade perfect, they did their own takes on it, and sometimes it gave a younger kid a more flowed game that was easier to play. And I think there's an episode in that there, Paul.
I think it is. Yeah. And then it had like Mario Brothers when Nintendo was still releasing on home computers. It's another Ocean. Donkey Kong as well, which was okay, the Ocean one. One game that I will sing from the rafters, even though people always say it's a knockoff of one of the Frankenstein games, but I loved Colin the Cleaner, and actually I've played the one that is supposed to be ripped off, and maybe he did rip off some of the assets, but I feel it's distinctly enough of a separate game personally. But it's one that I always grew up with. But Colin the Cleaner, for those who haven't played it, is, you'll see on the video sort of version, but it's a sort of single screen. You have to pick up the rubbish strewn around. But bizarrely, he can't go down steps. He can only go up steps or up on like teleporters. And the idea is you have to clean the entire museum before it opens. And it's really just a puzzle game more than anything, puzzle platformer, learning the order of things. But I love that game.
I get that. I mean, but this is what's magical about that. It doesn't need to be absolutely fantastic. That's all you had, right? And I'd rather play that than Highlander.
Yeah.
Any day.
Then there was Who Said That, which I vaguely remember. It was sort of like it was almost like Hangman type game.
All right.
I remember you sort of like choosing letters. Yeah, really obscure one. And then these are the final games. There was an awful lot of tripe on here. You had Ian Botham's Test Match, which let's be honest, that didn't get played a lot, to be honest.
No.
And to show you how sort of like how it was different times on this, so you actually got Who Said That twice in the collection. There was Mutations, which I can't even remember. One for the Road, I'm trying to remember that one. I'll be doing all the videos. Yeah, really obscure ones. And Hard, H-A-R-D. I think that was a shoot 'em up, wasn't it? H-A-R-D. And you had Hard
with the
twice
dots
as well.
between it.
Yeah, with the dots between it. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was a shoot 'em up. And then there was finally Blizzard Pass, which was like an adventure game, which I quite like that one as well. That was quite good. So, I mean, it was special days. You got a real massive collection of games to start with. And I always remember, because very much tied up with new machines for me is it always happened when I got my new machine, it always tied in usually around birthday time when I went to Isle of Wight, because my nan and granddad on my dad's side had like a little bungalow.
Your family have this knack, like the village you grew up in as well, have this knack of living in places where there's fuck all to do.
Yeah. It's the art of the well, as I say, it was great because there was a couple of arcade machines that you had they had like a little, well, I wouldn't say a leisure centre section because that's overselling it. They had a room where you could buy like cans of Coke, and they had like a couple of arcade machines there, like a Rygar and Rastan. I remember there. Yeah, so happy memories. But I got always tied in, because that was usually when I got my Spectrum Plus 2. We were on holiday there, staying for a couple of weeks. Yeah. And so I would have my birthday money, and I would excitedly go. And I always remember the first two games I bought for the Spectrum Plus 2, obviously I had a collection from before, was Outrun, of course. The Spectrum version. I was so excited to get that. And I also got Trantor, which was brilliant.
Well, the intro was great. The game was a bit boring.
Well, I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the cover. That was the only reason I bought. But at this age, and let's be honest, probably even to this day, the cover often was the deciding factor, because you could never rely on the images on the back. Yeah. But that was a lot of money. I mean, to put it in perspective, looking at this page of the adverts, a Sega Master System was only 99 quid, although you only got like Hang On and Astro Warrior. Yeah. The Atari 65XE that you could buy at this time was only 129, and the last iteration of the Atari 2600 console was only 59.99. So it just shows you it was this was a big outlay that my parents were
absolutely
were paying. But I mean, I have to say that was a generous collection of games. It's not like today where you don't get anything, do you, for a new system? The days of like the bundle pack-ins is sort of gone, isn't it? Unfortunately, pretty much for the most part. You're lucky to have one game bundled in, if that, and usually you pay for the privilege. So yes, that was my memories with the Spectrum. What about you? Let's go back to you, and then I'll talk about my where I was probably a similar age. So this was similar age to you, wasn't it? And then we'll talk about our teenage loves.
Yeah. I mean, so obviously I didn't get as much games as you. It came with that 6-pack, so there's a lot of edutainment on that. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like Checkered Flag and
amazing,
Horace Goes Skiing and stuff like that. But I mean, Horace, I suppose, in terms of nostalgic pangs, the minute I hear the sound of the ambulance on the game when you're trying to cross the road in the first screen, just takes me back to Christmas morning in the living room. You just think back, it's so vivid, that memory, and that really started the journey of the love for the Spectrum. It's not really a game I want to go into in any depth at all, you know what I mean? Because it's just a cheap part Frogger, part skiing game that it's cheeky, it's cheerful, but it was perfect for the time on that Christmas morning. But soon on the back of it, and my views, I'm not one. Of course I got them because it was part of it, but arcade ports weren't massively important to me.
Well, you were lucky you had them on the doorstep, didn't you?
Lucky. 4 arcade amusements on the doorstep, Seaside Resort back in the glory days, and so there wasn't that same drive for them. So I wanted unique experiences, games that took me to different places that the arcades didn't. So a lot of that came in adventures and things like that, more immersive gaming rather than just quick fire. So as much as you would like your shoot 'em ups or, beat 'em ups that were ported from the arcades, no thank you. So think of games like Fred and Bugaboo the Flea, right? By Quicksilver. Now, I bought a lot of Quicksilver games because there was a record shop that was selling, you remember me telling you that a few years back, that however they obtained Quicksilver games, it was just absolutely fantastic. And Mighty Magus, Ant Attack, all them, they just blew me away. They were so different, visually stunning, and just gobsmacked. And then Ultimate Night Lore, or it would be Matic Attack.
Oh, amazing games, yeah.
Yeah, it goes on, it's endless. It's hard, the Wally Week games, I remember getting Pyjamarama, and my love for Avalon. I'm not going to wax lyrical about a game I speak about in every other bloody episode, but this went on for years of just fantastic games, and I got, whether it be Dynamite Dan, and then your Chucky Egg, or
they were so special, weren't they?
Yeah. But as the years went on, original IPs shrunk, whereas whether it be US Gold or Ocean were competing as the big companies at the time to give the ports like Outrun or Thunderblade or, Chase HQ, you name it, even the wonderful R-Type.
Oh, great
port by Activision. So, I mean, yes, I owned all of these, and don't get me wrong, I love playing them. But the heart and that thing we're trying to describe here goes back to that informative period when you're season ownership. This computer's mine. What is my identity? Right, so you wanted to find unique, like you're calling the cleaner. I get why there's a connection there more than everybody else loved arcade games, right? Because you all spoke about them, you knew them. So there was a shared ownership of the love of those games. Whereas those unique, quirky ones, like for me, would be Rapscallion by Bug Byte or Turmoil or games like that. Loved those kind of games, and you would speak about it, people didn't know anything about them. It's like, because it's my information.
And you had it in your bedroom.
So for years, and I'm still coming across games that I've maybe not touched in years, because the Spectrum catalogue is vast, and there's games that you think they might not have that same pull to go back and play through emulation now, or however you want to play it on Spectrum Next, or the reimagining it by Retro Games Limited, the rubber keys that come out. So most of these games were exposed to me via a black and white portable TV that we had prior, that shared the room with my brother, and watching all 3 channels, not 4, you young people. Remember it was just up to ITV, STV, and so most of these games, including inputting the Jet Set Willy colour code, had to buy this thing, was in black and white. And that was annoying. I think I spoke about it before. There's a Bug Byte game called Aquarius, okay? And it is kind of a shoot 'em up where you're a diver and you're just shooting the fish and the sharks and octopus. You're meant to be a spy, and you get to the end of the game, okay, and it tells you the colour code at the start of the game, and there's a wall of colours that you have to bloody shoot. I could never bloody complete it because it's never,
It's bad, isn't it? Because I had a black and white TV this time, because that's one of the things that was so special to me when I had my own Spectrum, was because, of course, when it was the 48K, that was a family computer. As I mentioned, there were times, very seldom times, because both my brother, sister, and really my dad's interest was not games. It was more, he might play the Southern Belle or something like that, but and the Hobbit, as I mentioned. But most of the time it was only on special occasions when the Hobbit was the only one where it got brought out. Or it was Christmas time and the Spectrum came out, so I could play it on the family, be with the family rather than disappear off. But on the original Spectrum, when it was a rubber keyed one, it was in study, so we had an extension, but heating is a lot of money, so it used to be freezing in there, so you'd be literally no heating, so you'd be there with jumpers and everything, and trying to play on this rubber keyed Spectrum, on the TV. But of course, when I got my Spectrum Plus 2, and admittedly at the beginning I had only a black and white TV, but maybe a year later I got finally a colour TV in the bedroom, which was amazing. But it was just the idea of being in the bedroom. At that time I had the captain bunk, so I had so I would sleep at the top, and then underneath it wasn't like a bunk bed, it was like a desk and everything.
Did that exist at that time? I thought it was a bit more of a more slightly modern thing that I wasn't aware. Didn't remember seeing.
Yeah. I mean, I was the only one that I remember having it, but that was really, really cool.
Unfortunately, we had to have bunk beds because I shared the room, and my brother was a prick. I got to sleep on the top one, but he keep kicking the mattress with his feet between the spars and throw me off the land on the floor.
Yeah, no, thankfully it was only when it was when we were camping, like in the caravan.
Yeah.
I had to sleep at the top. Although there was one thing, because this was when I was little and I was like above. And I was probably about 6 or 5, and I wet the bed. It dripped down on my brother. But yeah, no, I had my own. I was quite lucky. I had my own bed and bedroom, but it felt much more your own,
yes,
because it was all
that was an important part of it. Yeah, part of that ownership again, and the doors closed. You're just immersed completely in these wonderful, just incredible, addictive games. That it was all new. It was just wow. You were reluctant to think anything was crap back then in the same way. You know what I mean? So you talk about some of the turkeys that came with those collections, but they were your turkeys, and you would give them a good bloody go at playing them anyway.
Oh, I would, yeah. And this was a weird time because there wasn't really that many, thinking back at this time, there wasn't all my friends that lived locally weren't really into gaming. Occasionally they would come over and play the games with me, but they were more into football and we'd go out and make dens and read comics. That was more their sort of thing. So consequently, apart from a C90 tape that my brother had done, he did it for himself in the early days, and that had like Jet Set Willy and Manic Miner and stuff, but because he wasn't really into games particularly, it was only that C90 tape. The rest, would be me buying them. I managed to convince, I just still don't know how I did it, but I managed to convince my dad. I think he just got promoted to managing director, so it was a gift. We all could have a gift, and mine was to join the computer club, which he didn't realise how expensive that was going to be.
The Computer Cartel Club.
Yeah. For those who don't know, how lucky you are. So basically, this would be adverts, and it would, of course, at the beginning, it's like a drug dealer, give you a little taste, isn't it? It's like only 99p, and you can have the latest games. But then, of course, it goes to you're then paying even more than you probably would in the shop, and you're locked in to buying a game a month. I think it wasn't it?
A game a month, yeah.
And so he wasn't really happy with that, but of course I loved it because it was great. I was like able to like choose a game a month, so I was in my element. And, but of course, I this age I wasn't very good at being particularly. I wasn't the sort of kid that would deeply look at reviews. I'd buy the magazines, but mostly for the cover discs.
Yeah,
and so I made a few bad choices, like I bought Renegade 3 because I love Target Renegade and a few of those. Yeah. Because to me it was all about the covers, so I'd look and say, oh, that one looks good, it's got I love Target Renegade, that one's good, or Transformers, or so there was many misstarts which we covered on our turkey episode, but
need to revisit that at some point.
Definitely, there's certainly a lot more turkeys out there, isn't there?
Yeah.
So it's just, but it is that ownership, isn't it? It was special, and it just the idea that you could be in your bedroom and and then it was like secretly playing it in the middle of the night. You'd like put like jumpers underneath so the light wouldn't bleed out into the hallway, so they wouldn't know.
I know.
Yeah,
there's a lot of memories around that.
And then you'd be like playing secretly with the sound turned right the way down.
Well, remember, as I said that before, that's the problem with the 48K, because it was an inbuilt speaker with no volume control. The game screeching, game loading couldn't be muffled unless you had to put a pillow over the bloody thing as well, right? It's like a tattletale, in your adult years, it's a bit the equivalent of sneaking a girl back to the room, your bedroom, right? But yeah, the police weren't so keen about muffling that one with the pillows, so the Spectrum, it was part of your identity and part of your life and your haven as the bedroom. So you had a shit day at school, fed up, had been taught how to be a worker drone, and just the droll of the education system at that point. I mean, the only good thing about that is they did start bringing computers, and the computer lessons and getting the muck about the BBC Micro was excellent. It was a change to that kind of indoctrination that the education system is doing to young minds at that point. It's a huge reminiscence bump and that, because right up to the age of 25, so ages between 10 and 25, memories are disproportionately vivid and therefore emotionally powerful the rest of your life. So the Spectrum, or any computer, but our Spectrum at that point certainly sits perfectly in that window of time. It's the same why music, films, and that from that period hit differently forever. They were laid down during that period where our brain was the most receptive to them. And your identity in amongst that was forming as well. So it's who you are, who we become as responsible adults, Paul. You know, it's part of that journey, and we just loved that period of gaming beyond anything. And we still like to do it, but that itch as an adult isn't quite there anymore, and we don't have
forever
that.
capturing it, isn't it?
Yeah, we don't have the flow states that we had as kids, right? Kids can fall into that deep absorption far more readily as us as adults. We lost days, absolute bloody days on our computers or consoles. We're not even noticing the weekend just went woomph. Weekend goes by hoovering and cleaning and dusting and dealing with whatever crap you've got to do at the weekend because you're working during the week, you know? So
yeah, and even if you do have a time where, and it's very few and far between, where the missus won't have given you like a million tasks to do, you always have that guilt in the back of your mind.
Yes.
Where you're like, you know, I should be doing X, Y, and Z. So even if you're playing these games and you're not enjoying it to the same level, because you always have in the back of your mind, I should be doing this, or you know, I need to sort of do this. And of course, like nowadays, although it's kind of sweet as well, but of course nowadays, like with the Switch 2, it's like I get like probably about 5 minutes on it, and then it's like Mira's turn.
Yeah.
And of course, because she's sweet and I'm not, you know, not mean, I'm like, yeah, okay, you know, you can have, you know, and then I do enjoy through her, but it's different.
Yeah, but that'll be memories for
itself, yeah.
She's got memories for her. As you mentioned, your dad enjoyed playing The Hobbit and Southern Belle. Since our Rick went down to Cornwall, I like to call him Southern Bell End, but that's something. So look at that poignant memory that you felt a modicum of a connection with your dad through those games, right? Because they're of a different generation where they weren't as emotional, supportive with you as the male in the family wasn't really like, not the way Mira wants a cuddle, you'll give her a cuddle. Thousands of cuddles, you know what I mean? It's a different world. So think of that memory that she's forming of you sitting there and she's playing. She might be selfish with it. You're not going to play Granddad. I'm playing Mario Kart, right? But you're there and she knows you're there. And it's part of that bond that you have. And we loved that when our parents took an interest in our games. That was far and few between.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's starting to getting into Pokemon, so I'll probably need to know more than that Pikachu's a yellow fat rat and there's
that's a language. That's a language in its own right.
Yeah, I don't know. She's starting to know all these like little
that's good.
Pokemon, and I have no idea.
Cool.
Yeah,
I think just one more thing in this era then is the rivalry then between friends with the other computers and the arguments in the playground of whose was best, which is a preposterous argument. But I suppose from my perspective that I always said that the up this way, not them all, because my good mate Harry across the road, he had the Commodore and we gladly played each other's computers, but it was more at high school when people were just, you know, push their weight about a bit more. It was the arrogant middle class arseholes that all had the Commodore, and they really wanted to belittle anyone that, you know, owned a Spectrum, something they deemed was less. I mean, I suppose scarcity made it serious. Nobody was ever able to own it and have everything, right? So you had one machine and maybe had to have it for years, So it needed to be the right one. And admitting a rival machine, I should really get Almac in for this bit. But admitting a rival machine was better, wasn't just a factual concession. It was destabilising your own bloody world with that. Your entire gaming world was built around that one device that you had. You're not going to admit to a Commodore wanker or a bloody Amstrad tosser, right, that theirs was better. No, every system had games, go-to games. And I've said it in our episode, I love going around to other mates' houses. You made friends through the spectrum and shared games, and you enjoyed that shared love. But I loved the going to other people's houses and seeing their systems as well. And there was games that definitely made you jealous as wow, I want that game, you know. So, but I think I only found that as a one-way door 9 times out of 10. And other people did. You showed them your games and that's all right. Stuff you then, mate. You know,
it's a personality type, isn't it? There's some people were like that.
Yeah.
It was a different experience. Mind you, it's interesting because you said high school, so I think you're right. It was, so for me, in the Spectrum era, it was very much a solo experience. As I mentioned, family members weren't really into it. And most of my friends weren't into sort of like gaming particularly. So yeah, it wasn't like the case that I didn't have the situation with people with C64s, or if they did, you know, I didn't really know them well enough to go round. So for me, the Spectrum era was more of a solo experience. It was a solo discovery. That you know, the sort of people I did know that had computers was usually like the BBC, because they got it cheap, because they were like parents for teachers, they got it cheap through, or you know, like I think one of them was a pastor, so they also got it cheap. So like the BBC was its own thing, wasn't it? I mean,
they marched to the beat of their own drums. There was never any rivalry, and they weren't as, the ones that I knew that had BBCs weren't as addictive to it and the same passion as you and I are trying to convey here. They didn't have that. They just kind of had it, that they did use it for their homework.
Yeah. But I remember one neighbour had, I know, I feel so bad. We were all so merciless with him, but he was so excited as well. He had the Amstrad CPC, but it was the green screen. Of course, we didn't all understand that actually the Amstrad is really, really good. All we could see that his Dizzy looked awful because it was like all green.
Yeah, I suppose. See, my cousin had the Amstrad with a green screen, and it didn't bother me because that was just a different tone from black and white portable that I had. He had different, you know, it was just a green hue. So I was in some ways I was kind of jealous. Oh, I like the green. At least there's a bit of colour. You know.
Well, yeah, you're obviously older than us, so you're probably a bit more bit more open.
I suppose in saying that, I think you nailed it. Though. It was just a system of two halves for the early informative stage. It was my most exciting time. It was a solo affair. This is when I was at primary school, because I would have started off at primary 6 when I got the Spectrum and loved it, adored it, and discovered all these things. And there's some element of me, even though it sounds weird because you and I are on a podcast always talking about games, but there's still a selfish element with me on the Spectrum that it's like the do not disturb signs up. If that's probably a better way, that especially when I do the reviews for Crash, if I want to get that feeling, I can't have distractions. I need to tap into that younger me that's hiding somewhere in my mind to play these games, because if I'm going to give them a review and a score,
you've got to give it a proper time, isn't it? Yeah.
The time and the mindset that, we're playing games that are coded on a system that's 44 years old. So, you know, you can't have the distractions and whatnot. You need to find that inner you that was a bit more socially awkward or whatever, and just, or not even that, just you loved it. You know, it's like, well, this is just what I want to do. I enjoy this. This ticks all the boxes, floats my boat, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But yeah, for me, it sounds very similar. You know, when you were going full pelt with your Spectrum, you were at that age. That's when I came into my own with the Amiga, which was my treat. You know, whilst the Spectrum was my first love, it was all a bit coy, but the Amiga was the full passion of teenage love. You know, that was a special time. So shall I mention a bit about the Amiga? Or
There's a good segue into it, mate.
Yeah, so I've told, I'll go very, very quickly. So I've told this story many a time, I know, but yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I'd basically saw an Amiga, fell in love with it, fell in love particularly with the game game Super Hang-On, which was just simply amazing on the Amiga. And from that point, I was like desperately saving up for an Amiga. That was the most important thing. So all my Saturday job money, paperboying, everything I could do, was going on my dream of having an Amiga. And I remember, which my parents still talk about today, so it must have really impressed them. Again, at Isle of Wight, I did a full presentation of why the Amiga was so important to have and how it was going to help me with my future careers and all of this, help me with my homework, all of this stuff. And they were so impressed that they agreed to pay half of it because the Amiga was really expensive. I mean, this advert, that was the very one that I bought, the complete package was £399. That's a huge amount. I mean, it's a huge amount of outlay now, isn't it? But can you imagine back then?
I'm just checking the equivalent. So what year was that?
This is probably 91, I think it was.
Today's money. Let's see. I mean, it's not totally accurate, these things.
No.
So, sake, why did that just screw that up? Here we go. Yeah, so that is equivalent, according to Google Funga and AI, £1,111.
I mean, what an outlay. Yeah. So, I mean, it was a huge ask of my mum and dad.
Mm-hmm.
But as I say, at this time, so to give you an idea how long I'd been trying to save up for this. So the one that I first saw was a 10-star bundle, which are really early bundles we used to have. Then you had it really blew up the Amiga 500 with the Batman pack because it was like the movies. But by the time I had the money together, I could have got the tail end of the Batman pack, but I went for the Screen Gems pack, partly because I'd seen like the opening intro of Back to the Future 2, and I loved that. And the intro always used to show because it also had Shadow of the Beast 2 as well.
Yeah.
But the other games on the actual pack was Nightbreed, the interactive movie, which was terrible. But you know how you sort of like lock onto a game and you sort of love it despite itself because it came with it and you got fond memories. But it is an awful game, but it had nice graphics and genuinely creepy bits to it. The bit when you're like in the asylum and he's like laughing manically and things, and being chased by one of the Nightbreed demons was quite scary at the time. And the last one, which was awful and such a disappointment because I loved the film, which was Days of Thunder. But the best thing on it was Deluxe Paint 2, which was, I mean, this was one of the things that was amazing and I think being lost with even PCs of today, really, is it was so much more accessible. You felt, Deluxe Paint 2 at that time was the thing that the professionals used to do game art.
Yes.
So, that and, tools like Amos and things like that, which were like basic tools, the bar to produce something that looked not too dissimilar to, I mean, it was, but, not too far out of there of what professionals were doing was amazing, really, wasn't it? And that's something I think that's been lost in today's world.
I think so, yeah. That in the adverts for it, the famous image of the Tutankhamun art was just fantastic. It convinced you with Deluxe Paint that you're going to be able to do that as well. There's something about it, right, that made you think, I'm an artist, right? So launches it up, fires it up, and I draw a cock and balls. That's about the limit of my Banksy street art, Very powerful tool. I loved it for modern games. I mean, I've said it many times how much I loved creating custom levels on Worms with Deluxe Paint, stuff like that, just wonderful package. That was another revolution in schools, would you believe, actually. Many schools were given, the art departments were all given Amigas up this way with really expensive printers at the time as well to encourage digital art, but nobody, the delay and gather dust, not for the lack of technical ability, because some of the teachers all had computers and that at that point, but more that is all one given department sees, but if they don't give the time and framework to develop it into the curriculum, what point is, can't just give someone it and shoehorn it in. There needs to be a shift in a...
Teach them and
absolutely, yeah. So they just lay their guard and dust. I remember that.
But I mean, because that was one of the big selling points, wasn't it, with the Amiga when it released them? There's that famous thing with Andy Warhol drawing some images and
I forgot about that. Yeah.
And they had what's the blondie? Debbie Harry. She was doing like music on. This is when the Amiga first released, because it was revolutionary when they, of course, doing that in '85. But even in '91, it was amazing.
Would you believe? Sorry to interject there. Queen's A Miracle was recorded on an ST.
Well, a lot of the music was on ST, wasn't it? Because it had such an amazing mod chip, wasn't it? Where the Amiga was a sort of different beast. It took samples, didn't it, really, for the most part. So, the Amiga was, the ST was really, really well used in, a lot of the
dual workstation things. Yeah, definitely, yeah. So, it was just a side line.
No, and, I used to love, it wasn't just gaming for me at this age.
Okay.
It was like, the graphics packaging. It was playing with like Optimed and things like that. And it was playing with Amos, and this is how I learned to do very rudimentary coding. But it just felt, when you combine that with things like Grapevine disc magazines, and which was like the internet before the internet in many ways, you'd have all these crazy articles, thousands of articles on everything. It was just so exciting. But the reason I bought this particular bundle, right? So not only did it come with those Screen Gems pack, and also because it was this pack, it had the 1 meg, which I knew was so important, because at this time I was reading the magazines and truly understanding even before I bought my Amiga. But it had the Sega Arcade Classic Collection. So it had, which I thought was going to be arcade perfect, because remember, I'd played Super Hang-On, so naturally you would think they were all of the same quality, wouldn't you? So it had Thunderblade, which was there, but it wasn't the worst, but it wasn't
a lot better than the 8-bit versions, that's for sure.
Yeah. Alien Syndrome, which was a really good version, and that's why I dragged you on that machine in Arcade Club when I saw Alien Syndrome, because that
was great. Aliens.
Game.
Yeah, it was good to play that in 2-player. Great.
Outrun, which was such a disappointment on the Amiga, because that was the main one I bought, because it was like, I was thinking it's got to be at least better than the Spectrum, surely. And when you see that opening intro with all the sound, you're led to a full sense of security, because of course it looks like the car, and it's got like all this extra music, welcome to Outrun and all of this, and then you start the game and you're like, what happened? Where's the artist that did the cover art? Why are we gone to this weird like a high schooler had drawn it? Shinobi, which was actually quite good, and it had Afterburner, which for years later, because this was the US release of Afterburner by Sega, not the Activision release. So for years later, I was like saying to people, I don't understand why people were moaning about how bad Afterburner is, because it seemed, it wasn't arcade perfect, but it was pretty good. And then I realized many years later that, there's 2 versions, and oh my God, although I will say the Activision version has better music, I would say, but nothing else. It was a much more squish screen. But you'll see on the video, I'll show both versions.
Yeah.
But even better, it had Kickoff 2, the 1 meg version, which was brilliant, actually. It's one of my favourite football games. Up until Sensible Soccer came along, it was probably, it was the football game as far as I was concerned. But it also had, because they obviously knew what you want in this Digicom package, it had 10 blank discs. So of course they knew
the clientele here.
So that went to damn fine use, that did. And because this was whilst I was a good boy on the Spectrum era, with the Amiga, it was, that was the time when I'd made contacts through friends and things like that. And I just remember, again, that brought a whole new era because it started off, I always remember this one kid, I had to pay him dinner money because he said it was so good. Normally you gave it for free, but he said this one's too good that he has to, cheeky little sod. So I had to pay him like £1 or something, which was my lunch money. And it was Speedball 2, which in fairness was a very, very good game. But yeah, that was, happy memories. But yeah, by the end of my teenage years, I'd built up such connections. I had pretty much every game I wanted, which was, and a ridiculous collection.
You were really living, breathing it then at this point, weren't you? It just ran in your blood, this impact this 16-bit computer had on you.
Yeah, but this was the time when, like with you in high school, this was, because this was high school for me, or secondary school, because we're not American. It was secondary school. And this was the time, but it wasn't other computers. And in fact, although I derided the Atari ST and things, that comes more from, even though I didn't really know anybody with an Atari ST, it came more from all the magazines, because you'd always read, it's a lazy Atari ST port. And you could see with Team 17 when the Amiga was used to its fullest, how it was being held back. That's where my annoyance came. But for me, it was more consoles. It was the period when the Mega Drive and when people had the Mega Drive and the SNES. And it was difficult because you had, the battle I would always sort of like say in those high school or secondary school sort of like word fights about it all was by, I've got all these games, but you knew in your heart of heart when you saw like games like Road Rash, although the Amiga did get a good port eventually, and Sonic the Hedgehog in particular, it just was, you knew in your heart of hearts, as much as you loved it, it was on another level. And particularly when the SNES came along, I wasn't that fussed like most people were with Street Fighter 2. I mean, I loved, but it was, you could see it was just on another level. But like things like Super Mario World and F-Zero and things like that, they were just, you did feel pangs of these you couldn't deny these were in many ways better games and more polished than what you had on the Amiga. But then you kind of liked the Amiga's scrappy charm, didn't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
See, for me then, being older, so my first exposure to the Amiga was still when I was having the Spectrum, and my brother's mate was the first to get his one, and I saw Carrier Command and Stunt Car Racer, and they blew my cotton socks away. Just the complexities, but easy accessible complexities of Carrier Command. It's not as overwhelming as you may initially think. Once you start playing it and understand it, it's actually quite a good game to get into. So I had to then, on the strength of that, and equally Stunt Car Racer, just go for the inferior 8-bit versions to make do at that moment, because I'm in 1988, 89, I'm still at high school when these games come out. So it's on my radar now that, the days are, as you've seen, as the years went on towards 1990, where I held onto my Spectrum, over my dead body, I'm getting buried with this thing, that his days were numbered towards the end, and you were seeing far more fantastic games. So obviously it was my brother's machine before I bought it off him. And he was always out, or when he got his own house, being 5 years older than me, he would drop it off and I'd have it for a whole weekend anyway. So I was always constantly playing it. And then when I got it bought off him, then that was it. It was because he then moved on to, he wanted a 386, 486, going down that route of PCs. Yeah. So, I was like, fine, you knock yourself out with that nonsense. I ain't interested in that. I'm going to Amiga and my tits out here. And I did as well. And it didn't matter. So you've got this parallel, as you said, with the console games that were coming out. That didn't matter too much to me because that wasn't the type of game I was wanting from the Amiga. Yeah. So I would go around to mates' houses and I just found, you know my views, they were Sega boys and their taste in games to me were dull, not the type of games I wanted to play. And that's why I always have that tongue-in-cheek joke about Sega, not as much a fan for their console simply because of it's a nostalgic thing against how the brand makes me feel simply because of friends' poor choices in games. It's like, even though there's quality games. And I'm sure the games they played were quality, just not because they were all action shooters all the time. I didn't want them for me, especially. I mean, obviously games like Moonstone, which we covered previously, and Another World and Flashback, these were absorbing. Yes, many of these came out on the consoles, but where it was at was the point and click adventures. As being a huge fan of text adventures anyway, this was the next evolution pathway of them. And I loved nothing better than slouching on the chair with the mouse.
Yes.
That very cumbersome, unergonomic, but lovely, gorgeous flipping mouse, and clicking on the screen, figuring out rubber chicken pulley systems on Monkey Island, or, all these great point and clickers. So
amazing games.
Yeah, Simon the Sorcerer, try to think from the top of my head. Obviously, Indiana Jones.
Leisure Suit Larry.
I never saw Leisure Suit Larry on the PC. I never actually saw it on the...
Oh, no, that was happy days with the Leisure Suit Larry.
But Zach McCracken.
Yeah.
All the great games. And then there was the amazing flight sims as well. Another thing that was very off the Amiga more than the consoles. So Knights of the Sky or Wings. Oh my God, they were just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
F-15
Strike Eagle was it?
F-15 Strike Eagle, absolutely, yes.
Gunship 2000 with a helicopter, exciting. Yeah.
I didn't feel I was missing out. So there is something, even though this is the next love, my mind's still taking these in, and you saw a huge evolutionary leap in a very short time frame. So the impact that the Amiga had was just as equal as that. That takes you back, but just in a different way. I wasn't young. I was old right through to, when I bought it, it was a bit like yourself, 91. I bought it off my brother. So, or thereabouts anyway. So then I'm a working adult, and you're driving, you've passed your test, you're driving to Dodgy Dave's tape and disc emporium at local markets on a Sunday, and coming back with a treasure trove of magical games, and you just still loved gaming exactly the same way, and it was fantastic.
Yeah, well, this is why the Amiga is definitely, that's why I'm doing like these like YouTube videos and things like that, because, I have so many fond memories. Although one thing I do lament is, because it's a bit like how it is in the modern world, because I had, by the end of it, such easy access to the games.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't, I quite lament when you look at sort of like console owners where they truly, because they literally had one game to last them a whole summer.
Yeah.
And they played it to an inch of their life. Whether I had what is now the modern problem with gaming, where such easy accessibility of all these games is
a huge problem.
Yeah, you'd end up saying, "Oh, this is brilliant," and you play it for like a couple of hours, and you think, "Oh, what's the next disc being posted to me? What's the next one?"
When you live in an era of saturation, it kills the magic, because the next game is eating at your mind. It's calling you. It kills the focus in some way.
Yeah, no, it's. But no, it is something that's weird, isn't it? With, I guess you'd always expected, gaming to jump up in the speed that it did in those early years, because it did continue. I mean, you think of like the next era, like the true era, you had the bit of the full start, but you had CDs, obviously, and there was like the CD TV to the Mega CD and all of this, and that was exciting. And then, of course, you went into your PlayStation and Sega Saturn. It was always exciting, whether now it's like, really the last leap up has probably been the PS3, Xbox 360 era. Which is decades ago old now, isn't it? And beyond that,
you're just not impressed in the same way, not blown away.
Yeah, it's just everything else has been. In fact, I've been more disappointed because where gaming's gone is not where I want. It's gone more sort of like multiplayer live service and trying to sell
certainly the AAA realms it has. Yeah,
indie's exciting. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Indie is, and to be honest, that's really all I play these days is indie for the most part.
Indie, or the back catalogue of all these amazing games, and even then on the other systems that you didn't own. So you owned a Spectrum, but let's spend a weekend just playing Commodore games because I bloody well can, and thoroughly enjoy it. And then, let's fire up the Master System. I've not played, what about next? Arcade on Main because we can now. It's there.
And it's the oversaturation, isn't it? And that's one of the things, actually. One of the things when my hard drive blew up and I lost all the collection, and my first instinct was to just like go and buy like another massive 20 terabyte drive. And then I stopped myself because I was like thinking, do I really need every game
Yes.
ever existed.
Yes, you do.
Or shall I just enjoy what I've got? So one of the things, like with what I'm trying to do, which is why I've started playing Mario Wonderland a bit more, is because for my shame, I've got like probably about 15 Switch games. Some are still in their cellophane.
Yeah.
Because I never got round to it. And I was thinking, I've got to get out of this habit. And it is a bit of a sickness, isn't it? Where and I still fall foul of it today because like you get sales and things like that. But rather than look at what other games there are, I've got to get in the habit of playing what I have. Because already I've got more games, even taking emulators out. If I just looked at my Steam library or even my GOG library, let alone all the console games, I've probably got enough for 3 lifetimes. And that's before you get to emulators and all the other things.
Yeah,
so.
you now know how you don't have enough years left in you to play the games that you own now.
Yeah. So,
and that's not even playing them to completion. It's playing them for a reasonable chunk to get what you want out of them. Right? It's fine to get up to a stage in the game. I've seen everything I want to see now. You don't need to see the end of every game.
Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of why I wanted to do that journey with the Amiga, to go back to my first teenage love, and then and sort of like reconnect with some of these games. And much, because I'm very much, the Amiga era is very much, it sounds like your Spectrum era.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, because you're an old git.
So you keep saying.
that was your your first thing was teenage years, really, wasn't it? With gaming when that really blew up for you.
Well, I mean, there's still the Spectrum. I mean,
LCDs.
I was still at primary school when I got my Spectrum, so that falls into itself 2 distinct eras just because of the time I got it and then the age it was. It was just that perfect balance that I saw in a kind of world of 2 halves. I suppose I can argue that not that I mentioned it. In '86, I got the Toast Rack 128K, a bit like yourself, has done a whole, not quite a PowerPoint presentation that you did to your parents, but you had to do the hard sell and managed to get that. And so I suppose I could say it falls in the original old school 48K era, which ranged from, Jetpack, Chucky Egg, all the classics. And then the 128K is more, you were excited that you had AY music playing through your TV, and eventually got a colour TV at that point as well. So, it's very distinct periods on that, whereas the way it fell for you was more definite Spectrum at the young stage, and then when you're really clued up and about it, the Amiga was there for you. That embraced you like mother's womb.
Yeah, and then I'm still ashamed to this day, but I managed to convince my dad, rather than buy a PC, which I knew, mind you, it would have been the 386 era, but I managed to convince him to, instead of buying a PC, which was the sensible choice, to get an Amiga 1200 because I wanted it.
Yeah, well.
Which I felt a bit guilty. But of course, when I started uni, I had to get a PC, and that was at the 486 66 era. And that was, I never looked back with that. That was a whole new exciting era, because that was all about setting up LANs at home and multiplayer and id Software and all of that excitement. And Duke Nukem, so many happy memories. And it's sad, isn't it? We just don't seem to have, and I don't know whether is it age and like what we alluded to at the beginning, or has gaming, fundamentally changed? Because I think there is some sort of sickness in modern gaming, because it's interesting to see how popular retro gaming is, not just with us old gits going from nostalgia, but younger kids. Truly sort of like appreciating these old games. Whether we had that obsession about always something new, because the new was genuinely exciting, well, I don't think that happens anymore.
No, not in the same way. They're born into, we were born at the right time. We saw that evolution right from the outset, because they're born into it, even the internet. They can't imagine the time before you couldn't buy from Amazon or whatever. Try to describe how important the high street was.
Or eBay. I mean, you had to go to car boot sales. I actually miss those days when you could get like good deals.
Well, it's also the excitement. You didn't know what you were going to find. I mean, you had this well-trained eyesight thing. You were just like, shite, tat, crap, no. 2 left shoes. blah, blah, blah. And then you saw something that looked like video games and you just pushed past the crowd. Out the way! The professional shopper is here.
It was so exciting because it was in those early days that's why I went into retro gaming, because I used to buy even it wasn't just Amiga magazines or Spectrum magazines I would have bought, but I always used to buy like Mean Machine, CVG, and I would hoover up all of these systems that I had in my head of all these games that I wanted to play but never got. So that's how I came into retro, was because in my uni days it was like, well, I can buy a Mega Drive that's super cheap and a stack of games super cheap, and I know these are games that I really want to own, and even like the Atari 2600 and things like this. That one I've said before, I got like a massive like stack of them, and I learned very quickly that new doesn't mean better.
No.
I remember the first time, because although I'd only seen magazines, but playing Yoshi Island on my SNES, picking that up, it just blew me away. It's still, I would say, it's probably my favourite platform game of all time. Maybe Rayman Legends tips it over the edge these days. But I
Is that Raymond Legends? That's his name, or Rayman?
Rayman Legends. Everybody loves Raymond.
Yeah.
Rayman Legends is, probably tips it over.
Oh, it's fantastic. That is the only downside about playing Rayman Legends on the PC is having to get a bloody fire up the Origin account. It's like, no, don't want two-tier logging in. I've got that in the Wii U actually as well.
Yeah, that was the first version, wasn't it? The Wii U version.
Was it? I can't even remember now.
It was originally exclusive, and then the Wii U didn't do very well, so they quickly brought it to every system. I've pretty much got it on every console.
It's so well designed, that game.
Yeah, such an amazing game. But it's I do miss those days. It's like with it's when I had to embarrassingly admit to Julian Gollop, the creator of games I do genuinely love, like Laser Squad, and he did UFO and all of those, and of course Rebel Strike and all the earlier ones. And I adored his games, but but he was, I had to admit to him, and he was like, because at that time he was coming out with Phoenix Point. I said, I am going to buy it, but I just don't know whether I've got the time to play those sort of games anymore.
Did you hurt his feelings?
Well, I'm not very good at lying, so yeah, I felt that would have been a good time to lie. But it's just true. It's like the Total War games, and that would have blown my mind. Total War.
Yeah.
And I remember the first days with Civilization on the Amiga, playing that through till the early, literally not sleeping, and going to like school or work the next day, work being like Saturday job, and not have slept because I've been absolutely engrossed. And I wish I had that. And you do see some adults that still
do it, yeah.
Still do it.
When was the last time you used to be excited about? I knew people like that. The latest Zelda game was coming out, so they took a week off work just to play it. And you had friends who done that, a big franchise game that they loved, didn't they?
Oh, Grand Theft Auto, they always do, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, or sick days were quite prominent when those big games came out.
Yeah.
HR would have had a field day just waiting on you. Oh, you're in game or electronics boutique, are you? I thought you were off sick. I was just at the pharmacy on this one.
And then I just popped in to get the new N64. Yeah, no, I mean, but I mean, I've never been that day one standing in the queue because I'm too tight usually. So I'm usually once it goes through, although this doesn't happen anymore, does it? In fact, prices go up in this weird world we live. Yes. But normally I'd go for the first price drop. So once, because at that time there was, there'd be a number of games, because I was always prepared to wait. I mean, even when I had my PC and everything, I was trying to think of the guy's name, but there was a game developer. He did Jason. Can't think of his surname. Jason. He did Medieval and a few of the others. But he was a friend of somebody that I knew, and flatmate. So he came to stay one of the weekends, and he thought thought I was just like the biggest weirdo because I still had my Amiga hooked up. This was like in, I don't know, probably about 95, 96. 96, I still had my Amiga hooked up, and he was like why kind of things, and it was like, well, but I've always been that mindset. I've always like, I was never one to sell my stuff to get the latest thing.
No, and that's the thing is, you're right. I wasn't at any point in the next stage of evolution was I ready to give up what I currently had. It was still damn fine. I was getting entertained. I'm not pulled in the same way of, I must have the next best greatest thing, because there's the Switch 2. It's been out for a little while now. But I'm a long ways off, if at all. I mean, that'll be the first Nintendo console since the SNES that I haven't owned, right?
Once the Ocarina of Time remaster that'll be all typical.
Yeah, that's it. But it's the prices, though, that are prohibitive. And even Switch 1 games, you go into CEX, right? And they still hold almost, it's like a tenner under full price. It's like, bloody hell, I ain't paying that for a second-hand game. No, and digital stores never drop in price. And it's like, so it's quite prohibitive in terms of cost. So, and I'll end up being I'll just use the next iteration of Switch emulator to play these bloody games or something. I don't know. I'll see. I mean, you're right. As soon as Ocarina's out, I'll be like, yes, I shall be getting this.
Yeah, I guess the one thing, you're absolutely right, but the one thing I will say is, unlike a lot of AAA games, a lot of the Nintendo first party games, I'm no interested in the third party ones. But the first party ones, you usually it's worth it, like a Mario Wonder or a Mario Kart or one of those, or even though you're like, it's pricey, I know I'll enjoy that much more.
I know that, and you do play them right through to completion because that's what you do with Nintendo games, and they still seem to tap into that magic just a little bit more, to brings that, not the kid out in you, but just it evokes those memories, or that you come in with that mindset and you're focused again. You don't care about the other games in your collections, because when Breath of the Wild came out, and equally Tears of the Kingdom, that's it. Don't speak to me. I don't want to do podcasts. I don't want to play retro games. I'm playing Zelda. Shut up, world. Shut up, Paul. No, I'm not doing an episode with you.
I never really gelled with that one. I own them both, but I just never really. For me, Zelda's whimsical and that, it's special days. But one of the things actually we forgot to say in the news, that site we're putting in the show notes, isn't it? With where games have gone out of, like, you can't buy them anymore, like delisted, but it's also got like some of the Need for Speeds as well. But what this collection does, which we put in the show notes, is it has like all the patches built into it, so it's like a widescreen or often upscales. It tells you all the things that it does, isn't it? And that's been brilliant playing that. I'm so glad to have.
They're on archive.org. They've been uploaded to there, and probably got a takedown. So
get it where you can. But it's but I do wish, I do wish publishers and that would care more about the old games and re-release. I noticed Sega are doing the Sega Universe thing, but again, they seem focused on making new versions of the games rather than
Shinobi.
I've not played it.
Utter shite. I have no interest in its aesthetics whatsoever. I mean, I think we mentioned enough about Shinobi in the last episode, an open bore one.
Although I am quite excited for the pixel art of Henk Nierberg doing the like official release of He-Man, isn't it?
Yeah,
that looks amazing. Henk Nierberg, he is the best pixel artist, I think, still going. Just amazing, isn't it? Stuff.
I mean, pixels were a thing that came from necessity back in the day for memory allocation and whatnot, right? But again, it just takes us back. I don't want to see hand-drawn vector sprites, as I keep saying. You see these lovely sprite work by pixels, and you're like, ooh, I'm sold,
Yeah. And I think I mean, it just looks wrong, doesn't it? With clip, it looks clip art. I think Rich hit the nail on the head when in the last episode when he said it looks clip arty.
Yeah, definitely.
And it does take you out of the action. But yeah, definitely. It was lovely talking about all these first loves and teenage loves with gaming. And it is something we're always trying to grab onto, aren't we? And I don't think we'll ever have that special period.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's a shame, but we keep trying, you know what I mean? But even when we go back to the old games, it doesn't give, somewhere in your memory, that's not quite the feeling it gave me back then. I still love it and it's great, but you want that thing it gave you and it would never give you what you're chasing.
Yeah. I mean, VR was probably the closest that I've had for that big evolutionary step. But again, there was just something, and again, I think it's just being an adult, because you always worry, you don't want to play it when everybody's around because it's rude. Whether as a kid you would not care, would you? Just go to your bedroom.
That's right.
And when your family's out, you're worried because you don't know, you're not going to hear if they're phoning you or you know what I mean. You're just you feel taken out of the world. So.
It does take you out. Yeah, and that's good. Many of the games designed are not really the type of games we want to play. It'd be interesting from a retro mindset. What if we were making games in VR? I mean, things like Beat Saber and that are tremendous, and Half-Life Alyx is probably one of the best VR experiences.
Yeah, I've still not played that one.
Seriously, you get a chance to try it. Please play it. It's done so well that it's a fine Half-Life game anyway. But see when the game opens up, right, and it goes all, the War of the Worlds type things on, and the tripods that walk about and then wow noises and that, and you're in that dystopian city and just looking about, wow, I'm actually in Half-Life.
Yeah.
And you're just looking about in wonder and amazement. You're right. I think you nailed it there. That took adult you and gave adult, cynical you that buzz again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was good. So, but yeah, I very seldom pull out. I mean, I've got an old gen Oculus Rift where I still have to set up the sensors, and it's just a ball ache.
I used to hate with it because I had that version, and then it was like, and it would be awful. Like you got it all set up perfectly, and then the missus decided to dust the place and all the sensors were being knocked over and you have to set it all up again, and by the time you set it up you're like that's it, your time's over, isn't it?
Yeah, and you needed enough USB ports on your bloody PC for them all.
I bought, because Charlie bought the Oculus 3.
That's right.
And so I bought his old Oculus 2, and that's a lot better because obviously all the sensors are built in. But I'll be honest, I lent it to a good mate of mine because his son wanted to try it, and I don't think he's tried it. And every time my mate's saying, "Do you want it back?" and I said, "Well, I will have it back, but I'm no rush because to be honest, it's either gathering dust in his house or my place." and he's got more space than me, so I'd rather it there and get it.
At least it's been looked after. So
but if I'd gone back to my 10-year-old self, because I was, or 13-year-old self, I was so excited about VR. And that's why, when Oculus Rift version 1 came out, I bought it because I was so excited about VR. It is amazing, but the magic still isn't there. And I think a lot of it is adulthood.
Yes,
it is adulthood. It's just,
and you wondered why your own parents were disengaged from things and uninterested. There you have it.
Well, a lot of it actually, and this ties in, is as a kid you've got the energy for it, isn't it? One of the things I think I struggle with VR is the intensity. You've really got to be fine. You can't be sat slobbing on a couch tired after a day's work. With a controller. In VR, you've got to be moving around or so it's just work's hard, isn't it? And life's hard, and it just tires you out. Yeah. Which is why I think a lot of us end up watching TV. Yeah.
Oh, good though. So I think that rounds it off nicely there, Paul.
Yeah, definitely good episode.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining me on this.
Yeah.
And And obviously, for our listeners, reach out on our social media or on Discord channel and let us know about your first love and why, it's such an important system for you at that time, and any memories around it. It would be good to hear.
Yeah, definitely. We always love and hearing like the package that you got with your system, because that's something I do miss, is the bundles that you get.
See, that's not a thing I ever had on anything really much I ever got. So it's not a thing for me, that.
Yeah, because I guess consoles never did it, did they? Because you just had the one game, and you went, as I say, the Amiga you bought, and then the consoles. You were pretty much consoles then, weren't you?
Yeah. I got my first PC for myself in '99.
Yeah.
At that point, went down that route then, but in tandem, and still up till pretty much now in tandem, but I didn't bother. I mean, there's no point in the PS5 and Xbox One, so I stopped at PS4 and the Switch, but in PC, obviously since then, a ridiculous Steam collection of shame from that. But that's why the PC's magic for me, because it's the closest thing to sitting in a bedroom. Gaming in the living room doesn't work for me.
I'm the opposite. My PC's into the living room. I need these days, probably because of my poor eyesight. I need the big screen now.
I'm just, it's all relative. I'm sitting there with my eyeballs almost pressed against the monitor like you did back in the day. Whereas if you're sitting on a couch, you're a few meters away from the TV, so it's just all relative in terms of size that way. But yeah, so in terms of bundles, no, it was never the only bundle I got was the 6-pack back at the very beginning. Yeah. And then since then, no, nothing. Had to make my own informed choices of games I was wanting to get. So that's fine. I'm all right with that.
Yeah, well, that's it. You always made good choices. I always remember your story with when you sold your violin and got all those.
The accordion, the
accordion. That was it. Yeah.
That's right.
Fantastic.
Right. Well, thank you, mate. And
cheers,
thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you all in the next episode.
Yeah.
So until then, Drisky, give it away.
And Drisky's Kingy's recorded this time, so hopefully he won't screw up like I did. All right, boys and girls. Until next time, keep it retro.
Legendary Sinclair embossed with ZX, chasing every ghost in jungly steps. Color clash parallax, loading from cassettes. Blistering Nintendo thumb from NES. Monthly fix of cover tapes bought from the store. Commodore format and Zap 64. Roger Frames, budget games and so much more. Flimbo's Quest, Dizzy Egg and Ultimate 4. These are the memories of a retro gamer. Life was simpler then. These are the memories of a retro gamer. To relive them again. Game Boy crowd gathers in the school playground. 8-bit wars, top scores and Sid chips sound. Sensible micro pros and kick-off routes. Alex Kidd's massive fist and silly potty bounds. Mega Drive 2 with a mushroom on top. Gives me Doom 1 with some levels cut. Sony wipes the floor in the next-gen wars. Only till the tides are turned with N64. These are the memories of a retro gamer. Life was simpler then. Oh, these are the memories of a retro gamer. To relive them again. Codemasters bit my brother's Monty on the run. Games Master, Streets of Rage and Big Top of Fun. Windfish, Tetris and Lemmings on the Ark. Dragon Punch, Fatality and Make a Theme Park. Silicon rendering and polygon lands. FMV, Smash TV and shifting sands. Multi-tap megaphone with micro machines. Lilac Wars, Volleyball and CG. These are the memories of a retro gamer. Life was simpler then. Oh, these are the memories of a